Too shabby. So just imagine if we lived our lives with such disciplined and clear focus on our intent as we move through our day. What would that be like? How would we maximize our purpose? Utilize our spiritual gifts? Now, I know some people have shared with me that they didn't realize how much time they were spending mindlessly on their cell phones or their tablets. And one individual, actually, I guess there's an app where you could actually time yourself. And the individual was mortified as to how much time that she was spending throughout her day. And I wonder if we would just take that challenge to kind of figure out how much of our day do we go unconscious, that we live on automatic pilot. Sometimes we can see the discipline required in such an amazing archery feat like Aaron Crow. I mean, that takes skill, precision, training, and clear focus, right? And that circle, if it wasn't hard enough to shoot the apple and get the ring and get to the bullseye, if it wasn't hard enough, so let's just add the spinning disc, right? And that spinning disc can represent all those things that can be influences to things that keep us off our focus, right? We live in the world, but not of the world, as the master teacher teaches, right? And sometimes navigating, living in purpose and the truth of our being, and then meeting the demands of the physical world, needing to earn a living, pay our mortgage or electric, meeting maybe the demands of our relationships, our families. You know, we have an elder parent or a family member who is needing care and attention, or maybe we still have children that need to be driven from one event to the other, remembering that very clearly when my boys were younger, right? And we also, on that spinning disc, can represent not just where we're pulled and tugged, but also represents when we are just have that untrained mind, the undisciplined mind. And so, what would it be like? Just ask yourself, imagine. If I had such discipline, such clear focus, where every word, every thought, every action, and our passion and our emotion was directed in the direction of our desire. In big and small. Who we are being in moment to moment. You know, we don't have our spiritual life here, our heart's desire over here, and then everything else over here. It is all one. So having that exquisite attention to who we are being when we're at the gas station, when we're at the restaurant, when we're running errands and we don't know how we're all going to fit it in. Having that exquisite clarity of intent and focus of who I am being in this moment. How powerful, how much more powerful our lives would be. And I know many of you are on that path and aspire and are successful and living on purpose. But as we become more masterful, there's always a deeper expression of that mastery. And that clear discipline of focus and clear intent of choice, of word, of action is what Stephen Cope calls in The Great Work of Your Life, unified action, or unity of purpose. And let's take a look at that through the lens of our spiritual powers, knowing that we're always activating all of them, but the question becomes, from what level of consciousness are we utilizing them and activating them? But I want to focus on three of the powers that really come forward with unity of purpose and unified action. First, it is the power of dominion. It is sometimes called the power of power, the power of mastery. That is when I claim that I am the master of my life. I am not the victim like Steve was speaking to. That I get to be the master over where I direct my attention. And that requires practice, just like shooting that arrow, because we have been domesticated to just go on automatic pilot, right? We have so many belief systems that are operating in our hardware that just come up automatic. Sometimes we have to do that virus scan to remove them. So the power of mastery, to be clear, focused in our intent. I have dominion over my emotions, my choice of words, and my thoughts. And the power of will is about the power, one of the aspects of that is choice. In everything we have a choice. There's a field of limitless possibilities, and in that field I will narrow my focus and choose. And where we are in our awakeness, where we are in our consciousness, will determine the choices that we make. And every choice leads us in a direction and collapses a whole bunch of others. But we know, as the Course in Miracles says, we get to choose again. And choose again. And unity is one of the aspects of our power of love. To unify everything within in harmony, in one purpose, is an aspect of our power of love. So when we talk about unity of purpose or unified action, as it is taught in the Gita, and as it is taught in the Great Work of Your Life, we are talking about mastery, choice, focus, and unifying our energies to live on purpose. And in order to do that, we must live awake. We must be clear about where we are using and putting our energy. Which means that we're going to have yeses, things that we choose to do, and things that we have to say no to. No, I do not choose to put my energy there or direct it. No, that is not a choice, that is an alignment. And so some of our choices, our yeses, will be about living awake. And what empowers that is to spend time daily. If we don't take time to be quiet, if we don't take that time in the silence to listen, to live from the kingdom of God, Jesus taught. The kingdom from within, not the kingdom from without, out here. What the world will say, right? So taking that time to reflect and to hear the voice within, the knocking, the desires of our heart, what is most alive within us. How may I use my spiritual gifts in small and great ways? I don't even like using the word small and big, because that can be different from person to person. But those that will maybe not be so risky for us, and then others that make us sweat like that guy in the video that was waiting for that arrow to go by. All right? so, as we take that time to be still, we begin to get clarity. And it is not enough to just sit in the silence. We must be that prayer. We must be that which we desire. What actions must I be willing to take in the direction of my heart's desire, in the direction of living on purpose? Because we're so busy, sometimes we don't think we know what our desires are, because we don't really take the time to be still. And what we must say yes to is releasing all of our wounds and victim stories. We must be willing to do whatever we must do to get that support, healthy support. Now, I'm not saying those thoughts may not come up, but then knowing that we have choice, knowing that I have the power to heal and transcend, I choose again. And to take that time in daily devotion to self. To love oneself, whatever that may be. Speaking words of love and compassion to your holy body temple. Doing things purposely. Moving your body because you honor your body temple. And then there are things we must say no to. The choices we must say absolutely no to. And that is licking our wounds, having our story of victimhood and martyrdom and not wanting to budge our whole life from that. Because you see, it's not that I don't have compassion for you. Some people have experiences and stories that are horrendous. So I am not dishonoring or not validating it, but I know the truth is our experiences that we will have vibrate at the same level of our being. And so I know if I hold the truth that you are powerful and that you have the divine power to transcend, then I know that the only way you can live in joy and fulfillment is to rise like the phoenix and to claim that power. And it also means saying no to being a people pleaser. When we make those choices, it may mean that we upset some people in our tribe. Maybe our families won't like it. Maybe our spouse won't be in agreement with it. Maybe society tells us something different. And so then we want to back off. And then we do not live from the inside out. We stuff our greatness inside. And so, I would like to share a couple of stories. One that is a personal one that shows just being in the moment and living on purpose. Maybe not so much your dharma, but it's all connected. It all leads up to that, right? It's about power of choice. Knowing in any moment I can be choosing to be in the living expression of my core values, in the living expression of my spiritual principles, in the living expression of who I am being, and utilizing my gifts. So the first one, it happened about 2-3 weeks ago. And it was early, very early on a Saturday, and we had a snowstorm. I should say storm. We had a dusting. But there was probably a good inch or an inch and a half of snow on my car. And I had on my mind, what I needed to get done for the day, but I needed to run an errand. So, out there cleaning my car off. And as I'm cleaning my car off, I'm noticing Matt's car's got snow on it, and my 2 boys who were home, their cars have snow on it. And I'm saying, oh, it would be really nice, because they clean my cars for me to clear their cars off. Well, it went from kind to nasty in a heartbeat. And then all of a sudden I had this thought come up like, well, they're very capable. After all, like, I'm the only female in the house. They're very capable. Actually, they should be cleaning my car. And literally within a second or two, I laughed at myself. And I realized who I was being, where I was. It was totally not in alignment. The unity of purpose in that moment was being a victim. Certainly not in what I value, being a living, loving presence, and to be a presence of gratitude. So I knew the only thing that I must do is clean all of the cars. I didn't have to, but I then turned the act into an act of love, not an act to live on purpose. So then I'm cleaning Matt's car off, and as I'm cleaning it, I'm thinking of all the times he's cleaned my car off, of the times he's driven me on a day that we were having a day to ourselves to a pastoral care visit, and it was storming, and it was far away, and he waited in the car, and I'm thinking of all these things, about all the gratitude and love, appreciation I have for Matt. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, my heart was just melting along with the snow. And as the sun is beating on me, I'm like, the thought came and a knowing. Well, you know what? Probably before they all wake up, the snow's going to be gone. And then I had the other thought. It wasn't a victim thing. It was just like, yeah, it's the truth, because it was warm. It was warming. And then I knew that if it was an act of love, it didn't matter if the snow was going to be melted. That the act of doing it was the act of love. And so I did the same thing with Michael's car and George's car. And I tell you, not only did it get me moving, but it shifted me back into alignment with the truth of who I was wanting to be. And I carried that throughout the day, the morning, and all that I needed to do just flowed effortlessly. Because when we live in alignment with purpose, we allow the energies of the universe, anything, whatever we're fully vibrating in, will come and meet us right where we are. Right? We're angry, we're feeling frustrated over and over, I'm a victim, we're going to get all the drivers on the road, and we're going to cut us off, whatever, blah, 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 right? So when we unify that power from the higher vibration, we put ourselves in that alignment. We unify our actions clearly. Our words, our thoughts, everything becomes sacred. There is nothing that's not sacred unless you choose for it not to be. And the second story I want to share is about Susan B. Anthony. So now many of you know her as one of the pioneers with Elizabeth Stanton, who was in charge of the suffrage movement and was highly responsible and laid the groundwork for women to get the right to vote in 1920. She died 14 years earlier, but a lot of that groundwork and advocacy for justice and fairness for all sexes and all people was something that was alive within her. And she was called a force to be reckoned with. When she spoke with power, with clarity, with poise, with presence, with spiritual centeredness. But what a lot of people don't know was that she was a very shy and timid girl. Rather, wanted to be off by the side. Not to be a center of attention or a center of focus. So how could someone with those personality traits come to be that force of power and reckoning? It's because when she was in her late teens, she realized what was alive within her, what she was desiring. She was brought up as a Quaker, so that helped. And Quakers believe that everybody has wisdom, has a voice, has a say. And her family were abolitionists. So there was some groundwork of support. Now, during that time period that Susan B. Anthony lived, women were property of men. They did not only have the right to vote, they couldn't buy or sell property, and even their children were the property of the man, the husband. And they had basically two choices, and there were not choices really to go out and work. So they had two choices: to get married so that they could be provided for and have a family, or to be an old maid. And Susan B. Anthony knew what was alive within her was the justice and equality and fair treatment. And she knew she would have neither. And so she reinvented herself. The one profession that women could step into, especially if you were from Quaker background, was to become a teacher. And so a teacher she became. But one of the things that she said that was powerful, and it talks where she speaks her dharma or her purpose. When she was 25 years old, she said, "When I am crowned with all the rights, privileges, and the immunities of a citizen, I may give some consideration to the social institution of marriage. But until then, I must concentrate all of my energies on the enfranchisement of my own sex." So there she was, having clarity of choice, unifying every action in the direction of that which was most alive in her. And so what she said no to was marriage and being an old maid. What she said no to was being intimidated. See, yeah, she was frightened. She was scared. But she also had a very deep spiritual practice. And so instead of focusing on her shyness, her timidity, she focused on what was alive. She had that knowing that it wasn't just for her, it was for other women and for the healing of the world. And so she would take her small choices, one at a time, yeses and her nos, clarified in unity of purpose. She became that teacher. She showed up at meetings where men were, and she would stand up. And she didn't even know at the time, she couldn't even believe herself that it was her speaking. She would not be intimidated, and she would not take anything personal, knowing that it was a shift in the collective consciousness that was happening. And what she did say yes to was she got herself a mentor, Elizabeth Stanton. She said no to foods that took away her energy, said yes to those that energized her, knew yes to the movement. Every choice was around. It wasn't just exercising so I can fit in a size 10 or a 7. I am so exquisitely clear with my mission that I would want to take best care of this temple so that I can live powerfully and with passion. And slowly it led to her rising and the universe supporting her, conspiring behind her to be that force. So my friends, I ask you, what are your yeses and what are your nos? How can you exquisitely move into unity of purpose, where you, like Aaron Crow, are the master of your own world, where every thought, every word, every action is chosen with exquisite precision from everything you do, from serving a meal with cranky kids, right, to our life's passion and the bigger things that seem more risky for us, and stepping out. I know you are all masters. Namaste.
Namaste.